Dr. Ravichandar. He will be talking on COVID-19 protocols for ophthalmic surgeries under general anesthesia. He will be presenting the topic for the first 20 minutes, after which we'll have a 3 to 5 minute question and answer session. Dr. A. Ravichandar is a consultant anesthesiologist at Aravind Eye Hospital, Madurai, India for over 20 years. Dr. Ravichandar brings with him a strong commitment of quality coupled with evidence-proven study of different medications used in anesthesia in ophthalmology. Dr. Ravichandar has a strong academic background and expertise in writing many journals for some of the leading ophthalmic journals in India, and is one of the few in India that are dedicated to ophthalmology. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you, Dr. A. Ravichandar.
Good evening to everybody, and I personally thank to the Aurora people for given the opportunity to talk in this forum. And I also thank Dr. Chandrasekhar for a brief introduction about the COVID in general. So I'm not going to touch all this, how it spreads, how it contaminates, how it gets infected, but straight away I can go to my area of general anesthesia. As you all know, general anesthesia or anesthesiologist role in any ophthalmology center is very, very minimal. The ratio of the ophthalmologist into anesthesiologist is very, very different. There are almost 70 ophthalmologists, 1 or 2 anesthesiologists only be there. Because most of the time, the ophthalmologists themselves do with the local anesthesia and then start doing the procedure. Especially in some situations, I will go to brief all the things where the anesthesiologist role is mandatory. As far as I am concerned now, still we are in a stage of COVID illusion. We don't know what is really going with the coronavirus. There are so many articles, so many WhatsApp, lot of literature reviewing that every day, lot of picture is going in and around. So what I believe in my area, because I am the anesthesiologist going to work in a place where the highest aerosol generating procedures like any ENT surgeon, I consider all the patients who are coming to anesthesia, general anesthesia are COVID positive. So we believe that universal precautions with the full PPE is a must for any general anesthesia related procedures. These are all some of the questions even now people around me asking, are you still working in eye theater, or have you been reassigned to some other intensive care, or because the workload is, as Chandrasekhar said, very much reduced, and that too in the general anesthesia is very, very, very less. So for the past 3 or 4 months, the workload is totally different. And people are still asking, are you still doing as many as GA surgeries or GA given to the eye surgeries? And the next question, what everybody asking nowadays is, do you get COVID testing for the pre-operatively for all the patients? Or sometimes some people are asking a different way. Do you ask the patient to self-isolate how long before doing any procedure under general anesthesia? Coming to the common indications, what we are facing in general anesthesia, even in this pandemic spread of the coronavirus, the pediatric surgical procedures. One of the lockdown period, children will play in, even though in the home, they get injured, and the type of patients I am getting on and off. The only area where I have been called for general anesthesia in ophthalmology nowadays, rather than the elective procedures, is the pediatric trauma. And some of the vitreoretinal surgeries, some orbital trauma also we are getting very, very occasionally, and I have been called for giving anesthesia. And very rarely nowadays, the previous days where the cataract surgeons are asking for the sedation, now it almost is very narrow, very, very unlikely to be called for general anesthesia or sedation for uncooperative cataract patients. See, what are the general principles we have to follow in the general anesthesia assay and also in association with the COVID situation? The proper preoperative investigation, assessment, and like preparation of the patient, the starvation and administration of anesthesia, how we manage the recovery room care, how we are giving the post-operative analgesia. These are all the areas we are still more vigilant, and how we modify the COVID-related anesthesia workup. See, coming to these pre-anesthetic preparations, see, as generally we scrutinize a lot rather than the local anesthesia for any ophthalmological procedures. But as far as the COVID situation, we still more aggressive or we little more vigilant. And a lot of preoperative counseling we ask, like Chandrasekhar said, the questionnaire to the patient, like where they are coming from, the containment zone, whether the family members get affected by the COVID, or any history of symptoms like flu-like symptoms is present, and temperature monitoring, and also the pulse oximeter. Everything we are still more spending time with the patient, and before accepting or assessing the patient. The blood test is, as far as now, is all the total count is a must. Some people are still doing the C-reactive protein or the D-dimer to assess the status of the patient reaction to the infection, whether already existing or not. The X-ray test is almost mandatory, but the more interesting thing nowadays, what the anesthesiologist is required is the RT-PCR or high resolution CT. I believe the RT-PCR also is important, or HRCT, any one of the one should be there before submitting a patient, because the pandemic is so much spreading and the patients we are working in a high chance of aerosol generation. It is going to be a mandatory for any patient. As I inferred in the hospital nowadays, most of the time I have seen, when I enter into the hospital, I have seen people coming with the eye bandage only. Now on the road, on the hospital, everybody is started wearing the habit of using the face mask. So it is going to be a must for any patient in the assessment room with the 3-ply mask. And the patient is getting into the theater, should wear a full scrubs, because the spread of infection is prevented from the patient to the surgeon or anesthetist or the attenders, also from that to the patient also. So how we can assign our preoperative preparation? How can we work up to do the work in a COVID situation? See, we have to plan. Most importantly, the anesthetist has to be a little more experienced, because we are going to work on a place, the general anesthesia, where the highest aerosol generating procedure is there. That is oropharynx. Whatever the general anesthesia, either we have to intubate or we have to do the suction, we have to do the laryngeal mask insertion. These are all the high aerosol generating procedures. So we have to be very, very vigilant and careful and doing this procedure, and to formulate the yearly plan. We have to set all the medicines on the airway management. Everything has to be little more disciplined before bringing the patient on the table. And also a clear sign can be designed on the door, GA cases is going inside. So unnecessary entry of the people coming into the complex of the OT can be minimized by giving a sign like this. And also, I believe that since we are dealing with a high chance of aerosol generation, the density of the viral load is very heavy, we always time for the staff who are working along with me to double check whether they are complete with the PPE, and also we exchange whether I have been right to wear all the PPE properly. See, we always do like that and then proceed to the patient. See, as everybody is saying, the aerosol generating procedures, where the viral load is very heavy, very large when the patient is crying, and some of the procedures where I am telling that, see, the highest load, if the patients cry, lot of aerosol can be coming into the area. And also the second one is the bag and mask ventilation. As we have seen when we give the anesthesia, before we're going to the endotracheal tube intubation, we hold the mask in the patient's mouth and ventilate. If the mask and the bag is correctly matching, there is absolutely no chance of aerosol leakage, but it is very difficult. So we used to put some plastic drape over the mask and do the procedure and minimize the aerosol generation. And the next is the tracheal intubation and the bronchial suction, and especially at the end of the procedure, extubation. These are all the areas where the high chance of aerosol and the high number of aerosols can be spread into the operating room. So these things these 5 areas has to be very, very disciplined and properly assigned and properly managed. And there is no chance of virus to come into the theater. The next is the high flow nasal oxygen. Sometimes people ask for the patient for the comfort, especially for the bronchial asthma patients, some of the cardiac patients who require the oxygen. Previously, we used to give whatever, if the patient is hypertensive, if the patient is bronchial asthma, if the patient is cardiac, indirectly we go with give the oxygen to safeguard the patient. Now we made a little modification. We go with the monitor. We see the monitors really the patient is needing. We ask the surgeon to do the procedure little fast, so we can minimize the unnecessary stimulation of the nasal mucosa by giving a high flow oxygen. Therewith the patient sneezes or cough, and the getting everybody panic. So these are all things we have to plan little early. And the cautery usage also has to be minimized. If at all, if you are going to use, we can apply povidone iodine over the cautery usage and prevent the aerosol generation. See, these are all the areas where the chances of aerosol generating plus AGP, these are all the main problem in general anesthesia. So coming to the general concept, next is how we are proceeding with the general anesthesia. As you know, everybody start with the IV cannulation, and then next the induction. Next is the maintenance of anesthesia. The fourth one is the patient is getting out of the anesthesia, and the meantime how the operation theater room is air being circulated. These are all the things that anesthesiologists always be very cautious, very carefully designed. The patient shifted to the directly into the OT unnecessarily reduce the time holding the patient in a veranda or the preoperative room. See, this is very, very important because we reduce the patient demand, the cry, or patient moving here and there. So as far as the general anesthesia is concerned, the patient has to be seen in a third room and prepare everything. Straight away coming to the theater is the operation theater table is the very, very ideal. Next thing is the negative pressure. This is one of the common word that everywhere the general anesthesia is going, negative pressure, negative pressure, negative pressure. This is very, very difficult unless you have a already designed theater like a laminar flow theater, where the laminar flow actually 18 cycles, 18 minutes is enough to completely exchange the whole air to the atmosphere. Or you should have a Pakka scavenger system. See, normally any theater has been designed in a three-stage, three-door technique. One is the outer, next is the station, next is the operating theater. The pressure inside the theater is high pressure and doesn't allow any bacterial to come into the theater. And the next pressure is minimal bacterial area. The third one is the outer area. This is completely reverse. We don't want the virus to be present in the theater complex too much of time. There we can minimize by the negative pressure. This is very difficult unless, as I said, very properly managed. So how can we modify if already a theater is having a split AC, or we don't have any scavenger system, or we don't have a laminar flow? What I plan is we can switch off the air condition. In any theater, in this type of small setup, they have an exhaust fan inside the OT to remove some disinfectant during the preparation time. We can switch on this exhaust fan and open the door for a while. There we can reduce the viral load. These are all 100%. I cannot say this 100%, but to reduce the viral load in the operating table. So once the procedure is being done, we can switch on the exhaust fan and open the door, switch off this air condition, will minimize the viral load inside the operating theater. The next thing is they protect the surgical instruments. During any procedure, we can assign the theater complex in such a way, the sterile area, the sterile tables has to be little away, that is almost 6 feet away from the intubating area. Will minimize the chances of this aerosol to get stuck with this in places. Thereby, the patient, next patient or transmission are minimized by these procedures. See, once the problem start with securing the IV line, especially in a pediatric age group. See, what generally we do is a pre-medication. The pre-medication is aimed to prevent the cry, minimize the secretion of the oral cavity. These are all the area where we concentrate. We try to give the pre-medication. But There are so many types of pre-medication like injectables and syrups and oral nasal midazolam. So many things are available. But I believe it is very difficult to make the baby completely cry and not especially when this baby is crying, when you come to the table, when we touch the baby, this baby started crying. These things is very difficult. So what I am doing now in these changes, we use the high flow of sevoflurane induction, hold the mask with the plastic disc. It is a little awkward, but as the 20 seconds, the patient will get quiet and we can easily place the IV cannulation. So inhalation induction is little easy for now the patient with the little children, young children, and who is not accepting the face mask, who is not allowing you to put the IV cannulation. Next is the induction, where we started going to give anesthesia, where the IPPV is given. Here, what we do is we put a mask over the patient and a plastic sheet is being covered, and hold the face mask with the two hands and ask another sister who is assisting me will squeeze the back, and thereby the air is going into the lungs, and also minimal leak, or there is absolutely no chance of the aerosol coming out of this face plastic sheet. These are all the things that we are now modifying nowadays. And also we conduct the rapid sequence induction in the sense we don't normally use a drug which is quite long acting for the patient to deepen the anesthetic level and do the intubation procedures. So we are going with the short acting at the same time deep acting muscle relaxant or the anesthetic drugs which make the patient a little deeper place and then do the procedure. See, airway management, what I am prefer is the most experienced person. The anesthesiologist have well expert in putting the endotracheal tube or the laryngeal mask airway is a must nowadays. Too much of handling this oropharynx will disseminate the aerosol and produce a lot of viral load inside the theater. As far as the monitoring is concerned, standard ASA monitoring is enough. There is no necessity for COVID-induced special monitoring equipment. But the video laryngoscopy is the one which reduces the anesthesiologist to go nearby the patient. We can see like a video and do the procedure, but it is not regularly used. And the positive pressure ventilation is once the tube is placed inside, we immediately put the cuff and prevent any leak coming and any lung induced pressure to come out of this. So thereby they limit the aerosol generation. As far as the anesthesia is now, and the next thing is what we follow is low gas flow. The gas flow is as little as to accept the level of oxygen saturation. So we use the minimal gas flow, thereby the dissemination of the gas-induced, ventilation-induced aerosol coming out of this place. This is the COVID aerosol bags. As you have seen this, how the swab is being taken for the COVID test. You have seen in the media so many places, the patient is placed inside a room and the hand only coming and touching this patient oropharynx. Like that, we designed this aerosol box. The two hands are going inside and do the procedure. The sister is assisting from far away from the aerosol bag. Thereby, the patient, the aerosol is or the viral load coming in contact with the anesthesiologist is almost minimized. This is the technique that what I am doing. As I said earlier, the patient come with the 3-play mask. The 3-play mask is being removed, and I am using this full protection with the face shield and the PPE. Now, even then, the face is covered with a plastic sheet and a face mask. There is no absolute leak. Along that, the box is there, which is a plastic sheet, and the sister who is assisting me with the full protection zone, and she is squeezing the bag. See, there is absolutely no leak from the patient mouth, where the aerosol is expected to come even with the squeezing the IPPV, intermittent positive pressure ventilation. This is the area. Now, next is there. The sister is skimming. The sister is far away from me and giving the laryngoscope. Where I am putting the laryngoscope and intubation, I am protected my face shield, and also a box is there to prevent any spread of the disease. And then now I am intubating into the larynx. See, it is very fast. It should not be troubling. It should not be fumbled. And next the important thing is, as soon as the intubation is done, we put the cuff so that once the patient is started ventilating, it is going into the circuit only. It is not coming any leak coming out of this oropharynx. The plaster is nicely placed because this is very, very essential, because anyway, especially in an ophthalmology procedure where you are also putting some drapes, we don't know what really going inside. And also we have a filter, that is viral filter is there, as this is a viral filter in between the tube and the circuit, that like a N95 mask, it almost filters this 95% of the viral load. This is a once used viral mask. So this is the next, this is once again that I am going to put the laryngeal mask airway, and how I see this is a two hand is technique, and I am giving this laryngeal mask airway where I am little very far away from the patient. So there is absolutely no need of the box. This aerosol box is there. Now I put the cuff, usually a snugly fitting, a correct size LMA. There is no absolute leak from the side of this because it is not going into the trachea. It is just overlaying the place, the glottic area. Now I plastered it, and most importantly, after the plastering, I put a 3-play mask where I am making a hole, and then this is small modification in the COVID zone. See, I thread over that and plaster all around. This is like what we are wearing a N95 mask. This 3-play mask is being applied in the front. There is a gum is there. It is stick on that. On the side also is being stick, and especially all the areas. See, you can see that all the areas are being covered. There is absolutely no chance. This is a circuit which has been already a viral filter is there, and I am checking once again. I am still not convinced. So I wanted to put one more plaster in the top of this near the patient, near the surgeon's area. See, I'm going to put, see, I just adjust the tubes and everything in place, and once again I'm going near the patient and see whether really what I applied, this 3-play mask, is really comfortably sitting. So I'm not still convinced. So what I am doing now, once again I put a plaster near the nose where the more chance of the surgeon is getting in contact, see, like that. And then all the areas are being covered, and I noticed a small opening in the chin where I am bringing down, and the entire, see, this is the thing that where even if the LMA or a small leak is there, a small modification that safeguard everybody. This is the viral filter, what I said earlier. I will come to this later also. So this is the viral filter. This is HME, heat moisture exchange filter. This is almost like what we are wearing a N95 mask. This filters the virus and not allowing the virus that coming into the circuit, getting contaminated into the machines, or it go to the outer area where the whole theater is being filtered. There is no scavenger system, or there is no other exhaust system is there. This almost help us to reduce the viral load inside the theater. Only thing is there will be monitoring. We have to use the end-tidal carbon dioxide or lot of pressure monitoring. We have to check on and off and make the patient comfortable. So this is the thing that what I am doing with even with the reinforced with the plastic drape for the babies. The whole area is being covered. I make the surgeon to be free from stress, and they should be happily do the surgery because they will be very comfortable if there no aerosol is coming to them. See, this is the thing that even other than that, the surgeon is placed some plastic sheet and some using the povidone as Chandrasekhar is said. And I keep on telling the surgeon whenever the squint surgery or retinal surgery is being done, they use the cautery. I ask them to use this saline they normally use. That povidone iodine mixture of the saline can be used to minimize the virucidal effect of the iodine can be used. See, coming to the extubation, once the surgery is over, we have to extubate the patient. Once again, all the surgeons and other people who are nearby the patient has to go out of the theater, and the minimal use of suctioning, especially the close use suctioning, is useful to reduce this aerosol spray, and better to be done in the deeper plane. In the sense, patient should not cough. Patients should not struggle to breathe. These are all the very, very carefully and controlled anesthesia will definitely help. That is why ISL experience in the anesthesia is mandatory. And as soon as the procedure over and the patient has to reapply with the face mask, what they are coming into the theater, and thereby we are very happy. Once this is a small procedure, what sometimes the examination under anesthesia, where the anesthetist and the surgeon also will be very comfortable. Instead of patient cry and do intubation, we can put a mask behind the face mask and do the procedure. The patient is getting under and they can do the procedure. IV sedation, as I said, it is in fact this is very useful nowadays because anesthesiologists and everybody is scared of general anesthesia. They go only with the local anesthesia or by IV sedation. If at all, if I go with the IV sedation, I always advise them to give a subtenon block, wait for some time, 5 to 10 minutes, once the patient is settled, and then do the procedure. So disinfection, I think this has been elaborately discussed by Chandrasekhar, and I always believe that dosing to be done inside the OT and cleaning to be done every patient, that way we can do. This is the thing what I am doing in my general anesthesia part. I have a 1% hypochlorite solution where you put all the reusable things into the bucket and close, where the another bucket is there to dispose all the plastic drapes where we have to dispose. So what are all the things can be remained with us after the COVID leaves? The fear is will we stay for some more time? And as everybody says, the COVID test, initially it was very difficult to access. Now it is getting accessible. And now the question is affordability now comes. Now in the future, like any other blood test, it may be mandatory also, since we don't know when the pandemic gets over. And there must be a clear entry and exit point also will go in the future to prevent the cross contamination. And the most importantly, where ophthalmology theater or ophthalmology procedure, most of the time patient with a very comfort and neatly dressed, since they don't have any other disturbances normally, so the attender will come with a very happy mood. Now we are restricting the patient. This will stick on. Now the patient attender has to be minimized inside the complexes. And in the future, if the thing is, there may be a dedicated OT for the GA. That means most of the procedures in one theater with a GA and PACA prevention and all the necessary things can be done instead of doing and contaminating in the local area patient. Or a patient can be given anesthesia room, something like you give anesthesia, shifting the patient in the operating table, and once this procedure is over, they can come to the theater, that anesthesia room and extubation. This can minimize. So what I believe, initially everybody look at a staring look, the anesthesiologist, because I am the person which is different act. They believe that aerosol generating procedures. After the 3 months, how I practice, people gain confidence on me. People come and handshake with me. I am also very thankful to you for patient listening of this word. I once again thank Dr. Vishnu Prasad and Aurora for organizing this wonderful place and opportunity given to talk about anesthesia, which is very, very different general anesthesia for many, many ophthalmologists. I once again thank everybody. Thank you.